My name is Valerie Carmona. I'm 53 years old. I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the end of August in 2023. I went in for a routine mammogram, and for the first time they called me back in all the years of getting mammograms and saying, you need to come back in. There's something in one of your lymph nodes is inflamed. I thought, that's strange. And I remember when I went in for the mammogram, I wrote that I had pain in my armpit, and I just thought it's a sports bra. I did something wrong. I never thought anything of it. So when they called back, and this was not through St. John's initially, the wait time to go from a mammogram to an ultrasound was like 6 weeks. And I thought to myself, I can't wait that long. I'm gonna go crazy. So I was fortunate enough that I had family here in healthcare that was able to help me and get me in sooner. So I came in, I had an ultrasound very early in the morning, left to move my son to college, turned around the next day, came back and had a biopsy in my armpit. I never thought I was going to get the phone call that I got, and it was my sister-in-law who had to make that call. And I knew the second she said, hey Val, like the way that ended, I knew what was going to come out of her mouth next. And it was like, I'm so sorry, they found cancer. You're going to have to come back in and, get some more biopsies and find the primary, because it doesn't just start in your lymph nodes. Why me? And then I was like, well, why not me? I'm not any different than anybody else. There's nothing special about me that, cancer does not discriminate. And I just thought, well, I'm healthy. I didn't really have any symptoms. Maybe it's a mistake, because you start bargaining with yourself. Came here, had a bunch of tests, scans and biopsies and blood work, and met with several doctors, got 3 different opinions, and I chose St. John. It just felt like home to me. From the second I walked in, I just knew that I was going to be in the best of hands. Every doctor that I met here, they don't treat you like you're sick, and I didn't want to be treated like that. I kept on saying to myself, I'm 99.9% healthy. This is going to be okay. There was a mass on my left kidney. They did a biopsy and it turned out benign. My doctor, Dr. Linehan, who's incredible, was like, I don't like this. I don't like the way this looks. I don't like the way this feels. I don't like it. We decided that once I got through the breast cancer treatment that we would deal with the kidney. And to go back, I was diagnosed with stage 2 triple positive breast cancer in one mass and in my lymph node, and then stage 1 HER2 negative breast cancer that was also fueled by hormones. They treat, I believe, the more aggressive cancer, which was the triple positive. From the time I was diagnosed to the time that I started chemo, it was a matter of 2 weeks. So you really don't have time to process any of it. They kind of tell you you're going to have 6 rounds of chemotherapy. After that, you'll have surgeries. After that, you'll do radiation, and we'll go from there. For me, I just kind of broke it down into blocks, and I just stayed into, okay, I need to get chemo, and I'm getting chemo, and I'm not thinking about anything else. I was fortunate enough to cold cap, which is something that people don't talk about a lot, and that's why I still have hair on my head. It's been, a year since my first round of chemotherapy. I did well enough. I had symptoms, the nausea, the vomiting, the extreme fatigue, the bone pain. There was days right after chemotherapy that I just didn't want to get out of bed. But what I did for myself was I forced myself to stay connected with work. I worked through my entire journey from home because I didn't want to have two children, two young boys. I didn't want them to be afraid. I didn't want to disrupt their lives. I didn't want them worrying about me. So when I first told my boys, I never used the word cancer. I never used the word chemotherapy. I just said, they found something. I'm gonna have treatments and I'm gonna be okay. I mean, if anybody ever sees this recording, it's gonna be a shock to a lot of people because I continued as best as I could living my life. I'm not a very public person. I don't broadcast illnesses, vacations, wellness. That's just not me. I keep everything under wraps, and it was the only way that I knew how to push through and survive and stay in like my own bubble. The friends and family that knew have been incredible. People would show up for chemo that I never even asked to be there. It was like my own little chemo party. And I would come into chemo saying to myself, I get to have chemotherapy. I don't have to do it, I get to do it. It's a blessing, you know, that I get to fight this battle, that I get to even have a chance. So that was my mindset through everything, was like to stay in gratitude and not to make myself a victim, because I'm not. It can happen to anyone. And, you know, I have young men, you know, that I'm raising, that I want them to know that whatever life throws at you, there is a silver lining. We got through 6 rounds of chemotherapy. I rang the bell. I rested, I'd say, for about 2 weeks. I had my double lumpectomy, and from what I was told, I had a positive response to the chemo, which was great. And then we went on to my kidney surgery, which going in, we were under the impression that it was just, we're taking out a tumor. I think was with the Da Vinci robots. Dr. Gowrnathan was incredible, but I'm not gonna lie, it was the hardest recovery. And I think 2 weeks after she called and said, do you want the good news or do you want the bad news? I said, I always want the bad news first. She said, well, the bad news is what we thought was a tumor and turned out to be stage 1, grade 1, clear cell renal carcinoma. And it's not metastatic. These cancers have nothing to do with one another. My body just decided to develop 3 separate cancers at one time. And I remember getting off the phone with her and crying and then thanking God, because if not for breast cancer, they never would have found kidney cancer until it was too late. And the only symptom I had was back pain. And I kept on going to different doctors to treat the pain in my back. Nobody thought to look at, maybe we should scan her kidneys. Maybe it has something to do with that. I got through that and went into 20 rounds of radiation. And even through that, you know, you walk in, it's this big, scary machine. You know, you're holding your breath, you know, the beams come down and whatnot. And I just said to myself, like, this is healing me. This is curing me. You know, I'm gonna be okay. This is for my greater good. And I just kept on saying that to myself over and over and over again. Went on to have another surgery for a mass that they were watching in my ovaries. And there was a tumor marker that kept on just spiking up little by little. And given what I went through with the kidney and the different masses in my breasts, I just said, you know, I don't want to wait and watch anymore. Like, this is of concern to me. They agreed, and Dr. Park operated on my ovaries and my fallopian tubes. So those were removed, and thank God that was benign. And, you know, I continued infusions for the entire year. I finished in October of 2024. My port was removed, and I'm on a pill called anastrozole for the next 5 years, and that's my story. They're all great. Dr. Petty, Dr. Grumley, Dr. Linehan, Dr. Park. Dr. Petty, I'd say, is like the captain of the ship. Just an incredible disposition, so grounded, so attentive, so caring. These environments tend to be very sterile, and this is not the case. I felt like I was in the best of care, that no matter what, these women were going to take care of me. And I know that it's so rare to have all women doctors and all women surgeons. And I just felt like, that was just meant to be. So Dr. Petty, I saw her, I'd say, every time I had chemo. She'd come in, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Okay, you need to let us know if you're not feeling well. 'Cause sometimes I'm like, oh, is it normal to pass out? Is it normal? No, that's not normal. We need to know that. So she was great, and I just got through seeing her right now, and I don't know how to describe the warmth, that comes out of her, and I can't even imagine, what they see and what they go through, on a daily basis, all of them. Dr. Grumley was who operated on both of my breasts. Again, another just incredible human. She explained everything, down to like opening up a notebook that they give you and sketching. Like, these are the cells, this is how they divide, this is what we're gonna do. So I didn't walk out of any of these appointments like, what just happened? What did they mean? They're so thorough and so relatable. And for me, I love the fact that they're all women and they can understand exactly what I'm going through. Not that they're going through it themselves, but they get it. Dr. Linehan, I have the utmost gratitude for her, and that intuitive call of, I don't care what that result says. It doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't look right to me. If not for that, it's benign, go. So that was like, wow. And I tell her, I said, you're all my angels, but you potentially saved my life, because kidney cancer goes undetected until it's too late. For anyone that suffers from chronic backache, take that extra step and get a scan, maybe call a urologist, because with me, I never would have known if not for breast cancer. That's my silver lining, is I had to go through breast cancer to find kidney cancer that ultimately saved my life. Dr. Park came in at the end for what I thought was going to be a full hysterectomy, but it wasn't. And we had the option to do a biopsy, get the results, go over them, and then decide what to do from there. I didn't want to do that. Just, I'll sign whatever, put me under, do what you need to do, and when I wake up, let me know what you did. But we had a goal. The goal was to have this surgery and to recover in time to get on a plane and to go away with my family. And we did that, which was great. All of this is so traumatizing. When you're going through it, you're still kind of in a state of shock, and all you know is that I just have to get through the next part, and the next part, and the next part. After October, with the buzz of the holidays, November, December, you kind of realize that you're not here every 21 days, and there's this fear that kind of sinks in. Well, how do they know I'm going to be okay? What if something happens? What do I do? And and I've read that that's completely normal, but there's a part of cancer that people don't really talk about. So you can't go back to the life you had prior to cancer. You can't, because you're a different person. And you can't stay in a state of survival mode and, fighting, battling, surgery, scans. That's over to a certain extent. So you have this other life of, what do I do? Who am I? You have to find a new way to kind of navigate of not necessarily having cancer, but still having all the trauma that you didn't have time to process for the year that you were just trying to get through it. So that's where I'm at right now. Dr. Gowrnathan, she was lovely. There is a survivorship program here. In talking to her for 15 minutes, she understood exactly my fears, my concerns, my fatigue, the ruminating thoughts of, am I safe? Am I okay? Am I gonna be okay? Why am I so tired? People don't understand that. They look at you and they go, but you look good, but you seem healthy, but you're alive. And it's like, yeah, that's not the answer. It's not. So there's that part. You don't have a choice. You have to go through all of it, right? But when you cross that finish line, you kind of look back and say, what just happened in my life? Like, what did I just go through? How did I get through all that? And when that starts to sink in, you definitely need people to talk to besides, your family, your friends, your husband, someone that's licensed and understands that, yes, I'm thriving, but you can heal and be in pain at the same time. They did all my genetic testing and everything came back negative. So it's environmental, is what I'm told. I don't know what would trigger, my body to want to form 3 separate cancers that are not metastatic, that are not related to one another, but it happened. And I was fortunate enough that it was caught early enough, to where I'm not looking at stage 4. I see Dr. Petty every 3 months. As a touch base, they want to know how the medications are working, how you're feeling, what your symptoms are. I say I get scanned every 6 months for Dr. Grumley, for Dr. Petty, and for Dr. Linehan. So I'm kind of like a pro with the MRIs and the CT scans, and these are like, you get over fears. I'm claustrophobic, and I thought, oh God, I can't do this. I can't do a CT scan. You just do it. You do it now. When I'm in the tube, my eyes are wide open. Before, I would have my eyes closed before they would even start. So you get over fears that you had once before, because you realize that in all of this, you gain so much strength, like strength that you did not know you had. I gave it to God. I did. And I just kept on thinking about my kids. They don't need to know what they don't need to know, and for me, I didn't want disruption. I didn't want worry. Like they're going to worry no matter what I tell them. So why tell them too much? They're at the age where they can search things no matter, and they tell their friends or whatnot. I didn't want the attention. I didn't want the worry. I didn't want to worry about people worrying about me. I kept it, under wraps for as long as I possibly could. As we're having this interview, there's many people that have never known that I was sick for one day, let alone had cancer. For me, that was my choice, and that's how I felt safe, was that there's obviously nothing I can control, but at least I can decide who knows the story and who's in my inner circle at that point, because it just gets to be too much, and it's overwhelming enough as it is. I remember praying to God, just spare my children from having to see me super sick. Sorry. And it worked. I think first and foremost, it is so important to get your mammograms. These things developed for me in less than a year. I don't know how long kidney cancer was there, but they're the belief that it was there before breast cancer. So I'm definitely an advocate for mammograms, ultrasounds if you have dense breasts, which I do, and really to just lean on the people that you trust the most. Your doctors are here for you. There is no wrong question. Be an advocate for yourself, and if you can't do that, find someone that can do it with you. I just believe that You know, this didn't happen to me, it happened for me. And I just refused to take a diagnosis and make it my entire life. You know, that I was gonna get out of this one way or another and survive it, you know, and for my children. The things you do for your children. There's so many resources out there. The hospital offers a ton of them. The second people know, or those that I let know, they connected me to other people that I didn't know had cancer. So I had a little small group of women that I could talk to. And I'm, you know, on several groups on Facebook, you know, for the kind of cancer I had, for the cold capping, for the medication I'm on for 5 years. And there's a lot of information on there, and that's great as well. For me, it was really just digging deep inside, really truly believing that I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay, and I'm not gonna look at this entire road. I just looked at it in little small blocks. Like every time I finished one round, it was like, okay, one less to go. So I celebrated every little tiny milestone, you know, but definitely lean on people, because you would be amazed, the people that come forward that you didn't think would be there for you, but they show up. They show up.